Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Ask the Expert series. We are very excited to have Ashleigh Powell here with us today to speak about the importance of information technology and cybersecurity careers. So before we get started, a bit of background on Connect by Nova. My name is Hannah Jackson. I am the co-founder and career services manager here at Connect. Connect by Nova is a new nonprofit organization here in Cayman that is fully focused on providing our community with careers advice and work readiness resources. So this can be anything like hosting webinars like these to working one-on-one with individuals on their own career action plans. And when working one-on-one, we can assist with resume building, LinkedIn optimization, even helping individuals with their own direct applications. So that's a bit about Connect and who we are. So I'm going to pass it on to Ashleigh. So you can introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. So my name, as Hannah said, is Ashleigh Powell. I'm working in the field of cybersecurity or information security. Bit of background on me, I do have a degree in cybersecurity from the University of Texas in San Antonio. I've been back in Cayman since 2018, and I've been working in the field since then.
Awesome. So to get started, let's start off with what is cybersecurity?
So I think I would define cybersecurity as any tool, mechanism, or technique for protecting computer systems and data. So essentially, it's anything that you can think of that prevents unauthorized access or modification to anything that's stored or transmitted electronically.
Cool. And so how did you actually get into the field?
So my interest started in the broad field of information technology, started out in hardware, which I think most people would have. So I enjoyed like the engineering side of things, kind of like building out computers. And, quickly you learn that the hardware only functions for the software, right? So the software has to tell it what to do. And then when I got into discovering software, I started out in programming, actually. I did a few courses here at UCCI in programming. And then I wouldn't be able to pinpoint the exact moment or thing that made me choose security, but I think it was just a combination of things. Like you would always hear about these data breaches and you still hear about them. There was initiatives like e-government coming out during that time, and like e-government services are becoming bigger now in Cayman as well as around the world. And I would just always think about like, how much data do you put online about yourself, your credit card information, your personal information, like all of that is stored or transmitted online, and how easy or difficult should it be for someone to get a hold of that? And so I think just that, I don't know, fear drove me to have an interest in security and how we can safeguard ourselves.
And so follow up on that question. So what is the best way to safeguard yourself? Because you said like you put your credit card information out there, you save all of your passwords with your Google or Gmail account, right? So when someone does have all their information out there, what are the risks that are associated with that? Or what would you suggest that they do to really safeguard themselves?
Honestly, what you think, right? So a lot of people, you'll hear, oh, you should get antivirus, oh, you should get two-factor authentication. And these are proven methods, right? Like we're not just saying that to be like, oh, that's the thing, that's the socially acceptable answer. No, that's the real answer, right? These mechanisms are put in place to safeguard yourself and your data. So you should have a reputable antivirus on your personal computers. You should have protection on your accounts, like two-factor authentication. That includes your banking accounts as well as your social media accounts, because a lot of people, even though you shouldn't, they're going to use the same password. Or another one would just be, get a password manager so that you don't have to have the same password for every platform.
And there are a lot of password managers out there, but is there one in specific that you would recommend?
I know of a free one. There's LastPass, there's Credential Manager. I wouldn't say one's better than the other, but
Yeah.
there's a few free ones you can get.
Awesome. So that's a bit about kind of how you got into the field, right? You mentioned a bit of courses at UCCI that you did. So what education or qualifications would you suggest someone who's interested in the field should look at?
I think there's quite a few entry-level certifications or qualifications that you can get. Cyber in itself is a specialty, but you kind of have to have a foundation to build on that specialty, right? So even, just the associate's degree offered by UCCI in computer science, that's a good starting point. Or if you're not looking to do a degree, there's a few entry-level certifications that you can do, such as the CompTIA A+ or Network Plus. And these all build the knowledge and the background that you need to advance your skills into the specialty, whether it be cyber or some other information technology specialty. But you have to understand what you're securing in order to secure it, right? So you need that foundation of networking and data movement and things like that.
So for a young person, I mean, you mentioned the CompTIA Plus, right? So are those offered on island or those online that you can do from Cayman, or do they have to go overseas too?
You can definitely do them online. You can do self-study online for the CompTIA courses. I do know UCCI offers them as well. Mr. Salgan Amador, I know UCCI also introduced the Cisco Net Academy recently. So they're doing Cisco certifications as well as the CompTIA certifications. So that's definitely something that you could look into. But there are self-study options if you're, disciplined enough to sit there and do them. I did mine self-study, and you just they have proctored, since COVID. There's proctored where you can just take the test from your home, or there's testing centers on island as well.
That's awesome. A lot of things since COVID have actually added those as opportunities, which is great. Same thing has happened in HR, where you can go to UCCI and use that as a learning center or testing center instead of going overseas. So that has created a lot of opportunity for Caymanians post-COVID that we didn't have previously. So various opportunities within the field. So what would be a career track progression example for somebody, let's say, who's interested in the space, but is not sure which or where to start really?
I would say start everywhere. I mean, that probably doesn't sound great, but I mean, like I said, because cyber in itself is a specialty, but it also has many subspecialties, right? Because there's, for example, there's data protection, which is more concerned with rules and regulations and an organization's governance or compliance. But then, so you could be something like an IT auditor within that specialization. Then there's, of course, the several technical subspecialties like digital forensics, incident response, red teaming, that's where you are pen testing, threat intelligence, application security, network security. And in today's environment, everything has to be secured, right? So there's always something that you can learn about. But like I said, the A+, that's your basic, that's to really get you into IT in general, Net Plus as well. And then you can kind of just look into other certifications, like I said, the CompTIA certifications. There's, I forget the name. ISACA certifications. There's a few that you can just, look into to until you solidify what your real interest is, what you're really trying to learn. Then, just try all of them.
And so you mentioned a lot of different job titles just now. I know I did not know all of those. Would you be able, for also the students online, would you be able to go into a little bit of detail as to what each position entails, or kind of the different areas that they cover?
Yeah, so I mentioned the IT auditor would be someone, like I said, that reviews an organization's compliance and governance policies and procedures for compliance with certain rules and regulations. For example, there's the CIMA Cybersecurity Rule and Statement of Guidance. There's the Cayman Islands Data Protection Law. So all companies, not just the ones you think of, not just the banks or the insurance companies, everyone has to comply with those laws, right? And those laws are put in place, like I said in the beginning, to safeguard our data and our lives. There's digital forensics. That's the RCIP has recently expanded their unit. They have a few positions out right now, where they're trying to have more Caymanian and more on island resources for digital forensic investigations or criminal investigations, like the Freddie Diaz investigations, things like that, or anything that involves electronics. Really, they're trying to expand on that. So that's something, if anyone's interested in, they can reach out to Mr. John Watson at the RCIPS. He's the head of the unit. There's incident response. That's something where if a business was attacked or has experienced a data breach, that's where you would come in and figure out how and why, and then you recommend to that organization what protections they can put in place. Again, like I said, the Cayman Islands data protection law is now in effect, so there's a unit in government for that now. The ombudsman's office as well. There's pen testing or red teaming, which is where an organization gives you permission and employs you to attack them, and that shows them their vulnerabilities and where they need to, tighten up a bit. And then, like I said, there's application security. That could be web application security. That could be mobile application security, and network security.
Oh, that gives a lot of different options in terms of career paths that you could take. Yeah. It's really endless, right? I mean,
it really is endless. There's something coming out. There's new systems coming out all the time, right? And like I said, all of them need to be secured. So there's always going to be something new or interesting that you can look into.
Yeah, and also new and interesting applications that come out, which then requires new people for different positions, right? So even if you start off in one path, you could definitely take a turn mid-career,
for sure.
and do something else, right?
That.
Exactly, and you could do that another 2 times by the time
you can.
You go to retire, right? So it really keeps things interesting and keeps you on your toes, if you go into the tech space, for sure. So what does the market look like for someone interested in going into cybersecurity?
I think, like I said, the demand is high, and it's just growing. Like I said, the RCIPS just made a unit, government just made a unit. That's just Cayman, right? And Cayman's a little behind sometimes, but so there's all over.
We're catching up. We're catching up.
We are. We definitely are. And I can say that I'm proud to be in this space at this point in time. But the global economy, as it's definitely heightened, and Cayman will be no different. As more businesses develop and have services online, there's going to be a need to secure staff as well as customers. There's tons of new regulations coming out. The SEC, which is the agency responsible for investor markets in the US, they recently proposed a rule that all publicly traded organizations, which is, the big ones, the Facebook and the banks, the big banks, all of those will now have to be required to have a cybersecurity professional on their board. So there's, like I said, it's growing and growing. And then in Cayman, we have the prospect of fintech, which is the sector of like cryptocurrency businesses. There's a few coming up right now, and SEMA is recognizing that. SEMA now has a virtual asset unit. So there's tons of ways to get involved and stay involved.
So as a student, just had a question come in. If you're a high school student and you're interested in tech, right? And obviously you haven't decided quite yet, you're going to cybersecurity. Where do you suggest internships or getting to know more people in the space?
The cyber community in Cayman is very encouraging, honestly. I know companies like DART, CUC, Water Authority, Maples. They're all always looking for students to give opportunities to in the tech spaces. Just reach out. I know the education department, they have a lot of connections, so that would be a good place to reach out. They can set you up with a mentor, or they can set you up with a connection to a company. Yeah, I would definitely start with them.
Awesome. And so next question I have here is, what recommendations would you give somebody interested in the field? So what advice would you give to someone?
My top recommendation is just go for it, right? But do your research, figure out what you want to study or what you think you'll be interested in, and don't wait to get started on your cyber journey. Like I said, the demand is only growing and it's going to keep growing. So don't wait to get started. Just start with something, start with one of those entry-level certifications, start with an internship, anything you can apply yourself to, just go ahead and get started.
Here I have another question. What's it like to work in cybersecurity?
It's definitely challenging. I'm not going to say it's easy peasy, lemon squeezy, right? It's definitely challenging, but that's what makes it fun, right? You don't want to, well, maybe you want to, but I personally, I wouldn't want something where I'm doing the same thing every day, right? It would get old for me.
Yeah.
So if you're really interested in like a dynamic career, something that's always changing, something that's always going to have a new threat, always going to have a new requirement, it's definitely a good space to be in, because you always have to be a step ahead of the bad guys, right? So it's always about thinking ahead, outsmarting someone, trying to put your protection in place. It's challenging but exciting.
Can you talk me through, we had somebody ask, can Ashleigh talk through your typical workday?
Oh, my typical workday. So I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of switching a bit. So I started out in the really technical nitty-gritty of it, where I was doing endpoint security as well as network security. So that would involve, assessing the alerts that come in from the various tools, because if at most enterprises, they're going to have tools in place. It's almost impossible to get by without them. You'll need proper alerting. So you respond to those alerts. The biggest benefit is that you have to understand the environment. So for example, if someone's browsing on Facebook, right? Is that a no or is that a yes in your organization, right? Are people allowed to be on Facebook? Are they in marketing? Then probably. If they're not, then maybe they shouldn't be. And I say Facebook, and we're thinking social media, but Facebook and social media and any other website can have malware on them. You can get viruses on your company computer. So those are things you got to look out for. But yeah, it would just mainly be looking at alerts, assessing. You follow the timeline. You would see, oh, this person clicked on this link in this email that then took them to this page. And then what happened? Then the computer blew up, like who knows? But I've recently transitioned. I'm going more into the governance side. So that's more looking into, like I said earlier, about the compliance side of things, making sure that the company is following rules set out by the law, but also making sure that the staff are following with the company policies, right? So there's things like not sharing your password, or just making sure you lock your computer when you walk away from it. There's simple things that you wouldn't think of, but they're huge, huge risk.
Which that's really interesting you say, because when you go into the workforce, something you might not realize is to lock your computer when you go to the bathroom, right? And you leave your computer open. I mean, I know because I've locked a couple people's computers because it gives me high stress if they're open and they're not there. But it is very important, because that's all of not only your data, but the client's data that you're dealing with, the company's data. You've given full access to somebody you might have not even realized to all that information, right? So
and insider threat, unfortunately, it is a thing. People can have bad motives inside the workplace as well as outside of the workplace. So you don't want to get caught up in that,
Exactly. We've had another question come through. Have you had many incident responses that required mitigating or remediation?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Depends on the environment, though. I've worked in a few different organizations here on island, but some more than others. Some are more attacked than others, just the nature of the business. But I would say nothing major that required like the police or us to report it to the Office of the Ombudsman, because that actually is a requirement that anyone breached in Cayman or suspected to be breached, you have to report it to the Ombudsman within 5 days. So luckily, haven't had that type of incident to deal with. But there have been incidents of, just malware on a system, or someone clicked a link that they weren't supposed to. But like I said, it's having those tools in place are the most important. So when human error is always going to happen, human error is always going to be the biggest risk. So once you have those tools in place that can alert you to something that's happened like that, then you can go, mitigate it. You shut down that computer, shut down that user, wipe it from the network, make sure it doesn't spread, type of thing.
Yeah, I've found a lot, especially since GDPR and everything like that, that a lot of companies nowadays are also doing trainings for their own employees as well, and keeping them up to date in terms of malware and like not clicking on suspicious links, or even if it's a link coming from someone you think because it could also be a hacker, right? So all these different trainings that
that's
HR is rolling out to their employees.
I should have said, that's actually something I also handle is a lot of employee training. So there'll be like online video training that you do, but I've also done things like this, like presentations to employees, where they just getting them to understand the importance and how easily it can become a threat to not just your system, but once you click on something, then who knows, it could spread to the entire organization in like seconds.
No, it's like imperative to actually know that where not to click and what not to do, and the specific protocols and policies that need to be adhered to. Another one here, how do I move from help desk to cybersecurity?
Again, back at those certifications. I started out my first year was help desk as well. If you're in the help desk role, I would say speak to whoever's on your security team or your network team as well. Try to get some cross training. That would be super beneficial. The certifications and the degrees, like they give you the practical knowledge or the theoretical knowledge, and then I think really the degrees give you the theoretical knowledge and the certifications give you the practical knowledge to apply, right? So, but nothing's better than being in the role or being in an internship where you can really get that hands-on experience, and then you can build on that.
That's the key, really getting that hands-on experience, because you could have all the knowledge, but then applying that knowledge as well.
And it is sometimes hard to get those opportunities. Like I can say that it's sometimes hard getting these companies to give you the opportunity. But if you show that you're really interested, if you show that you really want to get involved, you do a certification on your own time, then they're like, okay, they're serious. Let's try and help them out.
And on that, so a lot of times young people will find mentors. So where do you think is a good place, or organizations or groups where somebody could find a cybersecurity mentor?
Like I said, the education department, I know they have a program where they're setting up people with mentors. And again, those big companies like Maples and Dart and Water Authority. There's also groups and pages on platforms like LinkedIn for building the cybersecurity in Cayman, the cyber community in Cayman, because I know that, like I said, we're always trying to empower young people. We're always looking for ways to help out. But reach out to any business that you would have an interest in working at, because everyone, like I said, everyone needs security, right? Whether it's the government, the dump truck system, like, everything has to be done. There's, like I said, those mentors in UCCI as well. They have a few that can be helpful. And actually tomorrow we're hosting the first ever security conference in Cayman. It's called Security B-Sides. So there'll be speakers from all around the world, all of the big names in cyber like Cisco, Palo Alto, and much more. So just get involved in events like that. It might be a little late now, but there's tons of events like that. We were looking to give away free tickets to students, and there's a lot more. This is just the beginning. There's a lot more events coming that students can definitely get involved in.
So that conference tomorrow, is that part of a specific group, or is it just the cyber community that has come together to put it together?
Yeah, everyone's coming on their own premise. Everyone's just wants to build a better cybersecurity community in Cayman.
That's fantastic. That is so good. There's also as well CML Women in Tech.
Yes.
On LinkedIn too. And I know there's also those other groups like Code Cayman and all these different organizations within like the CEC, and they have a lot of younger groups for individuals who are looking to get into the tech field.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, what would you say are the top skills for someone who's interested in the cyberspace?
Networking, for sure. Because like I said, you have to know that flow of data to know where to place the protection, because there's east, west, and north, south traffic is what we call it. So east, west would be data moving within an organization, and north, south would be data moving over like the internet, like an email. But on every point of the compass, there needs to be protection. So yeah.
So networking, definitely.
Yeah, networking. Networking is definitely the foundation. And then, like I said, just having that understand. It depends on what part of security you're interested in. So like you could go into the application security, like I said, that's its own thing. There are things for network security specialties, like the Cisco CCNA exams or certifications like that. But yeah, it depends what area you're most interested in. But networking is a good place to start.
Okay. Well, that's good. So then networking, and then you can go along from that.
Yeah.
And kind of decide what avenue you want to take next.
Yes.
All right. Let me go into the chat box and see if we have any more questions. Before I let you go, because I know it is everyone's lunchtime. So we try to keep these lunchtime ones short and sweet. So before I say thank you to Ashleigh for her time and for taking out a moment of her day, of her very busy day, to come and speak with us, I'm just going to open up the floor for any other questions. Are there any other ones that come in? Give you a minute to type.
Oh, I should also mention companies like Deloitte. I know I mentioned like Dart and Maples. Deloitte and Dr. Alex Forcell, she hosts something called the Women in Cyber event. I think it's like every October. And cool. In the most recent October, we did a webinar similar to this for students interested in getting involved in tech. And that was with the Cayman chapter as well as Barbados, I believe. So yeah, there's nice. lots of companies are always interested in helping.
I mean, like you said earlier, every company does need security, right? And that does require somebody who has some sort of knowledge in this space or somebody interested in going into this as a career choice. So there are opportunities and growing opportunities throughout all different companies across Island, like small organizations, medium-sized, large organizations. You really have, I mean, the world is your oyster, right?
Yeah. There's Deloitte, Maples, Bronco, the youth services unit within government, Mr. Jamo Miles or James Miles. He's always helping people out. Yeah.
And so talking about that, the youth services unit, this year, you were actually one of the 15 honorees.
Yes.
And that was for your career.
Yeah.
In technology. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
By the way. And if anyone has any questions after the session, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to reach out to Ashleigh afterwards. But thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we hope to have you again in the future.
Oh, thanks. I hope so too.
Any closing remarks that you want to share?
Like I said, just go for it. Be fearless. Just put your best foot forward, apply yourself, and just try hard.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashleigh. All right. Have a great rest of the afternoon, everyone.
You too.